On the day that I met Tom, I was at a bar with my friend, consoling her because her boyfriend just dumped her. So I wasn't looking to meet anybody. And Tom came over and introduced himself. And we started having a conversation and having some fun. And then Tom ended up taking me home.
and drove you home to your house.
Yes, I was staying with my parents because I just moved back from Texas, and I think you gave me your class ring that night too. I think so. We were 20 years old, but I ended up with your class ring. I think. I don't know how we had too much to drink. It was right before Thanksgiving, wasn't it, that we met?
I believe so, yes.
Yes, and then I was leaving the next day with my dad because I was 21 and you were 20 because I'm 7 months older than you because Dad was taking me to Vegas for my 21st birthday. And I was dating another man at the time when I met you. And so I remember Mom asking what was I doing with this class ring. I don't remember. I don't know why you gave it to me. I don't know. but I left the next day with my dad to Las Vegas. We were gone for 4 days. And I was talking to John, my other boyfriend at the time. I missed him. And when I came home, Mom said you had called, because it was just Dad and I that went to Vegas, that you had called several times and I wasn't going to see you again. And she said that you got hurt. You got caught in an auger and it'd be nice to go see you at the hospital. I said, no, I'm not going because I didn't know who you were, actually. I didn't want to see you. I had a boyfriend. And Mom said that you called how many times? 10, 15 times you kept calling from the hospital.
Don't believe so.
Yes, you did. I said the only way I would go is if she went with me. Remember that?
No.
Yes, so she went with me to the hospital to see you. And when I was in Vegas, I had my hair done. I had a perm. And you loved my hair. Do you remember that? And you couldn't take your eyes off of me. And the only thing I remember at the hospital is you couldn't swallow a pill without ice cream. Because we were giving you a pain pill when you were being a big baby.
Well, as I was in the hospital, I got caught in a grain auger, busted arm and up and messed up my back and leg, but I was lucky to be alive. And I did call her. Not 10 times, but
several times.
I did call her, and she was very attractive with that new perm she had. But, and then we kind of started dating from there. I know went out a few times. She liked to bowl, so we went bowling.
That was our first date.
First date, okay. And then I know after a few times
No, and then the second date we went to Mason City shopping, Christmas shopping. Because we went bowling Thanksgiving Day, actually.
Okay.
I think it was. And then the second date we went Christmas shopping, we ate at Pheasant Run. And in the parking lot, you got a little frisky. What did you say? I wish I would have gotten you a present. I would have gotten something better.
Oh, yeah.
Remember?
No, I don't.
Yes, you do. Yes, you do. Yes, the second date. Tom asked me to marry him on our second date. So. Yes, you did.
And got some pretty different stories.
And then we went to your grandparents for Christmas. Frank and Frida Sweevel.
Hank and Frida.
Yeah. And then after that, or right before that, we went to Wilchin's and we picked out my diamond. So the second date, your father asked me to marry him. So, do you not remember that?
It was a few dates.
No, it was not. It was not. And then when I stayed at your house in your basement, in your bedroom, and we fell asleep, we woke up to church bells. Remember the bells at the church? And your dad had to show me a butterfly collection that he made as a little boy. He was so proud of his butterfly collection. And he was 20. A little boy at heart. And then he made me a beautiful poem. To a girl so sweet and kind, I want to make her mine till the end of time. You do not remember that? Yes, you do. He wrote poetry. Yes. So there's no way of getting out of this. But then we didn't get married till July, so we had a 7-month engagement. I think when our families got together, there's a little friction between your mom and my mom, and my dad was easygoing. Your dad's easygoing as our moms, And I suppose looking back, if I was his mom, I would probably think, what kind of girl was this that said yes the second date, to marry Dad and to marry you? And I think her being Catholic was important to your parents, your mom. Yep. So I had to change my religion, which I was fine with as long as we were one religion. So that was the hardest part, is giving up being Lutheran and changing to being Catholic. So we had to go to these lessons. That was the main thing.
What did we do after the lessons?
We went parking against the lake. We treated ourselves for the long hour we had. As your dad went with me. So, but the turning Catholic was the hardest thing. And then, the friction between our mothers. They still never really got along that well, our moms. So, just different. My mom was free spirit. She owned a bar and stayed up late, and she drank and had fun. And your mom was church going. So they were different people. Opposites, so brought up differently. Then picking up the wedding dress, that was difficult, that was important, the wedding dress. Then we went together for the flowers. Tom helped me a lot, and his mom took care of the music. She was into music and decorating, so then we were chosen the couple of the year by the Reminder, and so we got to go to all these businesses, and they took our picture and gave us gifts, and that was fun. So we have that memory, and that was always neat to look back on. It went fast. 7 months, it went really fast. We had over 400 people at our wedding.
It was a big wedding.
Big wedding of the year. Okay. So this was a news insert in the Algona paper about the weddings. And then there's Tom and I. We were so young, both 20, really young. Don't look like that anymore, but
no. You
could open up the paper and see. We went to all these different businesses in town, and they took our picture. That was kind of cool. And we were married 40 years in July, so this is 40 years ago, so we still have all those pictures to look at. So that was cool. A little momentum. So
we got married at St. Cecilia's Church, and the church was packed. Remember, we had to be there 2 or 3 hours ahead of time for pictures from the photographer, and it was pretty hectic. And then finally, time for the wedding came, and so it was a nice day. It was July 26th, so it was the middle of summer, but it wasn't terribly hot, and they had all kinds of relatives and friends there, and remember seeing her in the wedding dress when she walked down the aisle. It was kind of neat, and it was a nice ceremony. It was Father
Duchesne. Or something.
I think it was Father Duchesne was the priest.
Yeah.
And then afterwards we had a trailer. They decorated a trailer you pull behind a truck. And we rode in and after the wedding, and then our reception was at the VFW Hall.
We went to the Choctaw. My mom owned the bar, and we went there, and then we took over the whole bar, the wedding party, and then we danced in the street, and we had fun. Your brother wore my veil. It was fun.
My brother was quite young, and he had a few too many, and he was dancing in the street wearing my wife's veil.
It was fun. That wedding party was fun. So, and then we went to the VF and had our wedding dance. Mm-hmm. So we did that, and then we stayed in town at the local hotel for the first night. Then we headed out on our honeymoon after that.
Went to Kansas City the first night and stayed at the
Crown Center.
Crown Center.
Yep.
And then headed south, head towards New Orleans. I remember, I can't remember what state it was, but there was one state we got a hotel, and it found out after we checked in it was a dry county. And Sandy couldn't go for that, so we had to check back out and find a different, go to the next town.
We went to Dollywood first before. We went
to Dollywood.
Yeah. And then we went to New Orleans.
Yep.
Bourbon Street.
Yeah. And that was quite an experience for two naive people from Iowa going down Bourbon Street, and that was 40 years ago, so it's a little more wilder now, but it was pretty eye-awakening for two little hicks from Iowa.
Oh, we like French Quarter. You ate those little donut things.
Yep, the bidets, I think they're called. Yeah. Those were really good. We had those every morning.
Yeah. I wanted to go on a Caribbean cruise, and Tom said we didn't have enough money. We would do it for our 5th anniversary. But by the time we went on this vacation, we could have just went on a Caribbean cruise because it extended it out. So remember, in New Orleans, we ran out of money, and we went to the bank to get money to have Dad send me some money. And it was a good thing you had your auger, because they could identify him by the scar on his arm. I remember that because we were just too young. Your dad looked like he was 16. He was very young looking, and I didn't look much older. But they did give us money so we can make it home, because we just spent money. We had fun. And here we've been married 40 years. You told me on our 5th wedding anniversary we'll do it 10 years. Then 10 was 15. Then 10, 15, 20, we'd have this Caribbean cruise. Here it is, 40 years, Tom. Where's my Caribbean cruise? We still have not gone on a Caribbean cruise. So I guess it's not in the cards. Maybe we get real old, you'll take me. But not now.
While we were driving down in, I think it was in Florida, it was 5-lane interstate.
6 lane.
Or 6 lanes. And
I was driving.
It started pouring rain, and she was driving. She let go of the wheel and said, I can't do it. So I had to grab the wheel and try to maneuver us through all that traffic over the shoulder so we could switch.
I was so scared. I just said, I'm done. Does Jesus take the wheel? I'm done. You took the wheel.
Our first night back from the honeymoon, we had bought a house. It was an older 2-story house, and when we were in bed, we thought seeing something looked like flying around the room. And so I got up and turned on the light, and there was a huge bat flying around the room.
And what did you do?
I got out of the room. I hate bats. And I told Sandy to come. She wouldn't. So I had to go back in there and get her.
You didn't come back and get me. No, he shut the door. And this was like at 2 in the morning. This was early in the morning. And my mom owned a bar, so I knew she was just getting off work at 2. So I called her to come get me because you wouldn't let me out of the door. You had the door and you were against it. You wouldn't let me out. And Tom, my hero, he was a big chicken. And so my mom came within, 10 minutes? Because she just lived 10 minutes away from the bar. And so she came, and she had a tennis racket, and she came in and killed that bat. You would not do that for me. My mom did that. So you were my hero, not. Yes, that was one of our first encounters with the bat.
We had all kinds of bats in that house.
Yeah, yep. And you hate it, but I hate bats too. So anyway, but he was very romantic. And on our first anniversary, you made me a cake. Happy first anniversary. Where did you go? Did you work at Cargill?
I worked at Cargill at the time, and
I worked at Sister Sarah's, right?
Yep.
Which is Emerald's now, as a waitress. And then I also helped Mom and Dad at the bar. I did that too, on weekends. So we did that.
And it was we were married a little over a year when you were first pregnant.
Right.
And we were real excited. I remember
Did we buy the Hickory House? Didn't we have the Hickory House or no?
Yes, we had the restaurant. We had bought the restaurant by then.
Yeah, we owned a restaurant.
In the Hickory House.
We quit our jobs and ran the restaurant, and I was pregnant. And we lost that first baby 3 months. We miscarried, remember?
Yeah.
Yeah, so.
And shortly after we went down to Fort Dodge and bought all the baby furniture and all that stuff, and had that room all set up for her. And
then 3 months later, I got pregnant with Kristen, and she was due in April, and she was born in December.
Yes.
Because I was 6 months pregnant, I was 26 weeks, and went into labor, and then went out to the hospital, and then they life flighted me to Des Moines to try to stop the labor. Remember that? Mm-hmm. She was born December 14th, and she weighed 1 pound 6 ounces. Anyway, she was fully developed, everything but her lungs, and then they had to do surgery on her respirator for her lungs, wasn't it? And we both got to hold her, and then she died December 15th. She only lived a day because her lungs weren't developed, and that was really hard because it was right at Christmas time. And we named her Kristen, so it's Christin, so in Christ. And then K, my middle name, Buscher. But that was in 82. We were married 2 years when we had Kristen.
Yes.
Yep. And it was really hard. That was very hard. And when you have a child, you go through a lot. If you lose a child, I mean, we grieve at different times. We went to Compassionate Friends, but Christmas was not the same for me. That was hard. And you wanted to make it better. And I
bought her a bunch of clothes, and she immediately returned them all.
I just didn't want to celebrate Christmas. I didn't want to celebrate. It was really hard for 5 years, I would say, before I could talk about it. It's still hard today. You know, I'll never forget something like that. She would have been 38 today. It was really, really hard because you blame each other, and divorce rate is high, and we survived. I mean, it just was hard because it was our child we lost, and there was always wanted to ask God why. Well, and it's not us to ask why. It's just she's our angel in heaven, and someday we will meet her again. I do believe that. I do believe that.
On the day TJ was born, I was in the KC's, and I was helping with the pancake breakfast. And when I came home, Sandy was just getting out of bed, and as she stood up, her water broke. And so we brought her out to the hospital, and I don't remember how long she was in labor, but it seemed like quite a while. And
that was a long time.
Gave birth to a healthy boy. We named him TJ, Thomas Joseph. And I remember the one picture that we got when right after he was born, where he was looking at me. It was a really cool picture. I really liked that picture.
Yeah. He had his little finger on his chin. He was looking at you. Mm-hmm. He was born on January 19th, 1986. Healthy baby boy. And I remember taking him to your grandparents. Every Thursday we would go because you were open at the store, and I would take him. He was Mr. America for great-grandpa Sweeble. Mm-hmm. He was Mr. America, nice, healthy baby boy. And then when I was nursing, I got pregnant with Christopher, which is 13 months later. He was born February 22nd, 1987. And Smiley, your grandma named him Smiley because he smiled from ear to ear. He was just a beautiful, healthy baby boy also.
Had little problems with the delivery because he swallowed a bunch of poop, and so they had to work on
Suction his lungs.
Yeah.
Suction his lungs.
So we knew something was wrong when he didn't come out crying.
Yeah.
But he turned out healthy. And
I remember Dr. Richards delivered him, and he said, well, actually, the stork delivered Christopher. The nurse caught him before Dr. Richards came in, so the stork actually brought Christopher.
The nurse's name was Mrs. Stork.
Yeah. But he said, you named it Christopher. He had a Christopher. He goes, you had nothing but trouble with Christophers. Christopher didn't prove him wrong. But you turned out good. You turned out good. And then 18 months later, Catherine Marie, Katie, she was born September 7th, 1988. And I was so happy I had my baby girl. You know, I had 2 boys and I had a baby girl.
And I remember telling her right after she delivered, the doctor said it's girls. I said, just because it's a girl doesn't mean you're done. And Dr. Buscher, I believe it was, said, I won't be saying that to her right now.
Your father always wanted 12 kids. He would say, 1 down, 11 to go, 2 down, 10 to go. I said, well, you're going to have the rest of these. So, and then it was 3 years later, Amanda
was born, and she had problems with the delivery. Ended up being an emergency C-section.
She had a bowel movement before she was born, and so there was no heartbeat when we went to the doctor. He was passing McCormick staining. And they had to do emergency C-section, and she didn't breathe for, 2 minutes, 3 minutes after she was born?
I remember looking through the window, and I could see them beating on her, trying to get her to breathe. And
there was 3 doctors in there, the surgeon and the 2 other doctors. And she was purple. Her nipples and her hands, the palm of her hands and feet were purple. I mean, because she didn't have oxygen to her brain. And then they had to put her in the bilirubin light. Remember that? Mm-hmm. And then she got to go home, and I didn't because I had infection of the uterus because I had gone into labor. So I had to be in the hospital, 10 days?
Actually, they sent you home, and then
go back.
Then the insurance required you to go home. Well, then 2 days later, you're back in the hospital for about a week because of the infection.
So then your mom had Amanda. You know, she was our miracle baby because we didn't know how she would turn out with the brain, with the lungs, right? She didn't have oxygen to her lungs, so we didn't know. But she did fine. She's our miracle baby. You know, we worried about her little butt because I had a cleft palate. like a crack in the butt. A dimple. It was called a dimple. But we were worried, you know. But I worried about everything. I was worried about everything. But she turned out just fine. And then 3 years after that, we had Anne Marie, our little town girl, town boy. And you had a thing about not having the kids at the store because we had the flower shop, and you didn't want to babysit. Well, what did you do for Anne Marie, our last one?
I built a fort at the flower shop I owned.
Dollhouse thing.
And for her to play in. And
so you babied her. You babied the last one.
When we had the flower shop, all of our ads, we always had our kids in the ads. And so there were some pretty fun ads that we used to do. The
one I liked is at Christmas time when Annie was a baby, and she was baby Jesus. Amanda was an angel, and Katie was Mary, and Chris and TJ were shepherds, and they were in our window for window display, and that was cool. That was my best picture of them. But they are all 5-8 years apart. But Annie, she's a daredevil today. I'd be on my phone talking to Mom, and she'd run out and get the cat and climb up the tree. I mean, she was just a go-getter. So now she's a traveling nurse and still a daredevil go-getter with a motorcycle. Mm-hmm. So that's our 5 kids that we have.
I can't remember what year it was. We had sold our restaurant, and then we had bought a flower shop, and they backed out in the deal. And so I got mad and just decided to open up my own, which was crazy looking back, but it worked. We had the flower shop for 25 years. We were in there together at first, and then Sandy went back to college and got her nursing degree. And then she started working at Good Samaritan.
Yeah.
And she's worked there how many years?
29 years. It'll be 30 years in September.
So then, that kept us busy. And we always like to do things with the kids. We'd take a vacation every year.
When they were little, we went to Wisconsin Dells.
Yep.
They liked Noah's Ark. Going down the slides in the water park. Silver Dollar City. Went to Branson.
And we went out west, Colorado and Glacier National Park and stuff. And I remember Chris and TJ, we were up in the mountains in Colorado and found some snow. And they had fun playing in the snow. And then there was one time when we were up in the mountains, we were above the clouds. There was a low cloud cover. And so they thought it was real cool to pee in the clouds.
And then we were going up the hill. Your grandma had just died a few months before that. And I told him we're going way up to the sky. And Chris thought he could see Great Grandma Sweeble, that he could talk to her because we were way up in the clouds, up in the sky. And didn't realize that.
Yeah. That same vacation, we went to Glacier National Park also.
Yeah.
And we were walking on a trail, and TJ and Chris ran way ahead like they usually do. And we come around the corner, and we see TJ and Chris walking up to a mama bear with 2 cubs. Luckily, it was a black bear, not a grizzly.
Yeah.
And she just kind of wandered off with the cubs, but could have been a worse situation.
And then I think one of the favorite memories too of the kids is going to Williamsburg, West Virginia, where we were like a town like George Washington, and they portrayed those parts and witch trials and Salem, and the girls had American Girl dolls, and then we camped, and I think they had that fun
they learned a lot about American history from that trip too.
Yeah, and then we stayed at Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, on the same trip, and that was fun. Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. The one trip that sticks out in our mind, 4th of July, what happened to our little Annie.
Oh, once again, TJ and Chris and Katie
we were rafting
down the river.
Yeah.
And they got way ahead of us, and we couldn't find them. It started pouring rain and lightning, so we had to get out of the water. And we didn't know where they were, and we got people to help. Well, there was an Indian. We were on a reservation where this river was going through, and Sandy just gave the Indian Annie, and while we were looking for her,
she was just a baby. Was she like 1 or something?
Yeah.
And we had Amanda, and we were trying to get the other 3, and they were trying to help us. I thought, oh my God, why would I just hand my baby
over?
In
those days, you could trust people too.
Yeah, but that's one that really shook us up, and then. I don't know, they got out of the raft and they were walking on the highway or something.
Yeah, and DNR or park ranger found them and picked them up, and so that was scary.
That was like a half hour before we found them, wasn't it?
It was a lot longer than
that. Something like that, long time.
Pretty much every vacation, we lost at least one kid. And usually it was Christopher.
Yeah, but this was Annie. And,
at the amusement parks, all of a sudden one kid would disappear.
And Annie broke her wrist.
Or Annie would fall on the railroad tracks at Pikes Peak and break her wrist. And,
so it was
when we went to Cancun, she broke her arm the day before we left for Cancun.
Yeah, still went, so.
And that was a weird situation because at the Minnesota airport, they grabbed her and took her away. They had to test her arm for a bomb. Didn't tell us anything what was going on, so we didn't know what was going on. Yeah. But the Mexicans did a better job because at the Mexican airport, when we were coming back, they took me with her and explained what was going on.
Yeah.
So,
well, then you and I almost didn't get to go to Mexico because we misunderstood. We didn't have a passport. We had a birth certificate.
And had the wrong didn't have the official birth certificate.
Yeah. Had different
papers. I think he was just waiting for a bribe and then just gave up to let us go.
Yeah, so we lucked out. But we had some nice family memories.
Something else that the kids always did, they were always the first ones to swim in Smith Lake
for
the year. Be colder than hell yet. And as long as the ice was out, they would go in there swimming.
We went on a lot of picnics.
Yep.
We did take a lot of picnics and hikes, like that. So
we usually had the first picnic of the year too.
Yeah.
And
I know the boys loved to play outside. Chris would be purple. He wouldn't come in. He loved to build forts, and they played ice hockey and played out in the snow too.
House we had at the time was it was in town, but it had 5 acres of a ravine and a timber, and
they built a fort.
I put a big bell up, and when it's time for them to come in, I'd ring the bell, and then eventually they'd come up to the house.
Well, the boys built a big tree fort there, and
3 stories tall.
Annie built a golf course, miniature golf course. She took a post-fill digger and had a little golf course there. So,
and they don't think we know about it, but they all had parties down in the woods too.
Yeah.
Well, our oldest son, TJ, he's in Washington State, and he's working for UPS. He's just got a job as a driver. He was working in loading the trucks, and now he's a driver, and he really enjoys that. He's always loved the mountains and the ocean and all that, so he just loves it out there. It's nice weather and beautiful area. We were out there to see him this year, and it's a beautiful area, and he's very happy out there. And then Christopher Buscher, our second son, he's in Colfax, Iowa. He works for Teen Challenge as assistant director. He's done missionary work and different things like that, and he's ambitious, and he's got 2 beautiful children and another one on the way. We got Noah and Anna.
Beautiful wife, Jesse.
Beautiful wife, yes. Mm-hmm. And then we got
Catherine, Katie.
She's in Cedar Rapids.
Yeah. She took after me.
She's a nurse.
Yeah, at the hospital at St. Luke's. And Brian, she's been married 6 years or 7 years?
7 years, I think it is.
Yep, and they have 2 dogs, Nash and Maui. And they've had a terrible 2020. They lost their house, and then they're rebuilding. And 2020's been not a good year for all of us. But then Brian hit a deer and rigged his truck in the front. Yeah. But it's be good to get to 2021.
It wasn't a Toyota, so it don't matter.
Okay.
Then
Amanda,
she's in Milford, Iowa, and she works for a grape tree in the office part. She does the calling and lining up the nurses, and she gave us 3 beautiful grandchildren: Keaton, Evelyn, and Renly.
Yeah, and then Clay is her husband.
Her husband's Clay.
Yeah.
And then we got Annie, and she's a traveling nurse.
Yeah.
She's started off in Idaho as a nurse right after she graduated from college, and then got a job as a traveling nurse, and she's been in Washington, and she's in California right now.
Can't wait to get back to Idaho. Yep, she loves California, but not the people.
She can't stand the people.
Too liberal. They're shutting down the state because of this COVID. But she keeps going.
She's got a real nice boyfriend,
Isaac. Yeah, we're proud of all 5 of our children, and we have 5, going to be 6 beautiful grandbabies. So we're happy. And I tell you, grandchildren are much better than children.
That's right.
Yes.
Enjoy them and send them home.
You can spoil them and send them home. You don't have to raise them. You don't have the stress or the worries. It's just fun. Whatever they want to do, they do at Grandma's house.
But our life has been an interesting journey, and
it has been.
And our kids are all spread out and starting their own journey themselves. And
I wish you the best. I mean, we're long gone. I hope they all are healthy and happy and leave their own journey, their own lives. And they can have just as much fun as you and I had. I think they'll be fine.
Yep.
And you have good days and bad days, and it hasn't been an easy road, you and I. But we're
Key is
together.
to have a few more good days than you do bad.
Yeah, you'll make it through. God first, and then family. I think you'll be okay. It's just this too shall pass. So like this 2020, I never thought in my nursing career I'd live through something like this. That makes me think about retiring soon. But you just pray and hope everything goes okay. So we will get through this. God will see us through. So when I'm long gone, I just want not have to worry about my children and their children, and hope they have a happy, healthy, blessed life.